What is going on, guys? It's Mekabre. We're back with yet another MC podcast, and today we are actually going into a deep dive of Destiny raids. And what do I mean by this? We're making a tier list. Yes, that's right. All the Destiny 1 and Destiny 2 raids as myself, Jazz Keyfall, and Vito Noble attempt to argue as to what is some of the best raids and what are some of the worst raids. So, with that, let's jump in. Thank you guys for joining me on this podcast here.
Ayo.
Hello, everyone. How's it
Um,
going?
it's going great.
Just
Unless you're talking to
peachy.
the people listening.
I was talking to
Just
the
just
people
peachy.
listening, okay? Type in the comments exactly how you're doing right now.
Do it. Do it, otherwise Jaren will haunt you. Can confirm.
Yeah,
Anyways, this is take two of this specific podcast. The first time the page that we are doing the tier list on decided to crash. So here we are yet again on a different tier list, but we're pretty sure all of the raids are here, so don't worry. Now, like I was saying, guys, we're gonna be going through and putting these in order from S rank being the best of the best, D rank being just not great raids necessarily, and maybe D rank isn't like that they're bad by any means. They're just not good compared to some of these others that we have in the game right now. I think a couple things that we need to discuss before we go in are what are some things that would make this a raid S tier and really really good. What are some things that are going to make it D tier and really not all that great? So we're going to start with you, Vito. What are some things in your opinion that would make for an S tier raid?
Easy encounters that were puzzling in the beginning.
Gotcha.
Like they make you think, but once you have them down, you pretty much have them. You pretty much have the encounter in your head.
Okay.
And plus, you can have it be in different ways too.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. I feel like that's a pretty good answer. Now, Jazz, what would you say are some things that you would argue make for an S tier raid?
for me, I would like a raid that I can play multiple times through without wanting to log off of Destiny and go spend some time outside breathing fresh air. Um, but I need something that's not going to feel the same every time I go through it.
Gotcha.
So that's important.
So you don't like the monotony.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. I got you. I got you. All right. Now,
Haven't heard of that raid though.
guess dang it. Um, for me,
Sounds like it'd be a good one.
it probably would be for anybody but you. For me, I think one thing that makes an S tier raid is definitely why I would choose to go into the raid in the first place, and that is the loot that comes from it. Not specifically the armor, because I don't care too much about like aesthetics in this game. Um, it doesn't matter too much to me, but I want that god roll of each and every weapon in the game because what if this becomes the meta in Crucible, or what if this becomes so broken in PvE that I can't stop using it? Whatever the case may be. And I think that's for me. That's what makes an S tier raid. All right, now we'll go backwards here. What makes a D tier raid for you, Jazz?
I guess this is kind of obvious from what I said last time, but if I get bored doing it over and over, it's not a good raid.
That's fair. That's fair.
You need to be thoroughly entertained.
How about you, Vito? What are some things that you would say make for a D tier raid?
In comparison to what Jazz said, he doesn't want to get bored with them. So like raids that raids that drag on
Mm-hmm.
would make it a low tier raid at least from like long
Then
encounters.
Yep.
you must
Like
hate Last Wish because it's got a
consecrated
dragon.
mine and garden of salvation.
Yes, Jaren, but also no, Jaren. And yeah, Vito, I think I understand exactly what you're saying there. You gotta have encounters that move pretty quick, and maybe they can take time in between like things you need to get done, but you don't want them to last like a full half hour because then it just gets way too long and it takes forever to do one run of the
Yeah,
raid. Yeah,
like
that's understandable.
consecrated mind.
Yes, if you have some poor teammates, which, by the way, we will talk about. Do not worry. Poor
Yeah,
teammates, good
you,
teammates, everywhere in between.
you who watch this, you better not leave. You better stick with this. If you
Hmm.
do, I will give you a carrot.
You heard it here
What?
first.
What?
Vito will give you a carrot if you sit through this podcast. I I don't know how he's gonna live up to that. I cannot confirm that this will
I will
happen, but
I will give the carrots to Mr. Beast, the philanthropist. He will give them to you that
if I had
way.
ties to Mr. Beast, I would help you out there, but I hate to admit it, I got nothing on that. All right,
Darn.
so let's hop in here. I think we need to start with the raid that started it all in D1, Vault of Glass. Now, quick disclaimer: Vito did not play D1, right? He has played D2 exclusively. Okay, so
Way
when
too
it
much.
you and me both. You and me both. When it comes to some of these D1 raids, if he doesn't have as much to say, or for some of them possibly anything at all, do not worry. Okay? It's not that we're not hearing him out or he's not contributing for these raids. It's because he doesn't necessarily know as much as myself or Jazz on those specific raids. But when it comes to the D2 raids, I think he will definitely be able to contribute a lot more. I would hope. We've definitely run enough raids together that you would have an idea on most of these.
You
So,
literally have a year one player that you talk to like regularly, and you decided to bring on the guy who came in Rise of Iron and Everett.
well, yes, and I have my reasons for this. Okay, I have my reasoning for
Okay.
this. I swear, I swear. A, I, I'm assuming you're talking Matt, correct?
Oh, and Ashton
And
too, right?
Ashton, yeah. Well,
Okay,
was Ashton vanilla? I don't know if he was.
I think so.
So with
I
Ashton, I
he was
don't
there
know if he
before Take.
took part of a lot of raids until later in D1's history, and I know that's similar to you, but at the same time, you offer skills as a comedian additionally. Okay. As
The
far
guy
as Matt
he made
goes,
it
I
like
I
this.
did not check in with Matt. I did not uh, think about that if I'm being honest. Probably should have. My apologies, Matt, if you're listening. All right. So let's start with the raid that started it all, Vault of Glass. Okay. Now, for those of you who may be watching this in the future, whether it be on YouTube or on Spotify, just know that this Vault of Glass here is pre D2. This is the D1 version of Vault of Glass. So I myself have ran it, I want to say once, maybe twice, way back in the day. Jazz, have you run the raid before? Uh, Jazz, you there, mate?
I'm lagging. Can you hear me now?
Oh, you're really quiet. But
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Uh, I did. Not
Okay.
well, but I did.
All right. That's yeah. I would argue the same for my runs. Not gonna lie. All right. So, what are some things about the raid that you enjoyed or disliked? A little bit of both that you remember, because keep in mind, for some of us, this has been a few years since we've played Destiny 1, and some of these raids even longer than just playing. So,
I mean, this was like the start of it all, right?
mhm.
And I mean, it definitely gets credit as a good raid, but I think people view it through a lens of nostalgia that like puts it above a bunch of others that it shouldn't be.
This is the other reason I brought Vito on. Vito has no recollection of D1 raids, so he's going to, without nostalgia clouding his mind, say without a doubt that this is the best D2 raid. While we're like, but wait a minute, what about Vault of
We're
Glass or what
there when
about
it
King's Fall?
dropped.
Oh, okay. So you're talking like day one, even just year one,
Well,
Vault of Glass.
no, well, no, I'm talking about like now.
Oh,
Everybody's like Vault of Glass, Vault of Glass, Vault of Glass. It's so good, it's so good, it's so good. And I mean,
mm.
it's not bad.
No, no, I wouldn't
Don't
say
get
it's
me
bad.
wrong, it's not bad at all. But like, it was their first go at it, and it has some unique parts like the harpies,
Mm-hmm.
really unique, right? But other than that, I mean, it's kind of just a raid,
These are
in my
all
opinion.
just raids. Some of them
Listen, please,
less than raids.
you do not disgrace Wrath of the Machine like that.
Hey, well, we're not even there yet. Let's focus Vault of Glass here first. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I feel like a lot of people are going to look at Vault of Glass, and if they play D1, they're going to let nostalgia kind of cloud their judgment and go insane. I think at this current moment, by the way, this is being recorded for the 15th of April in the year 2021. I think that a lot of people are so excited for VOG to come back into D2 that they're beyond excited, and that's making them say that it's a better raid than it probably actually is, because you know in their minds the reason it's coming back is because it's such a good raid, not because it was the first raid ever, and everyone wants to see it in Destiny 2, see it on the PS5, see it on PC. It's because it's purely because it's coming back, and they're like, they think it's the best raid, so therefore it is the best raid.
For
Yeah.
sure.
So okay, if tentatively, where would you put this raid?
Probably like B tier or A tier.
B
Really
tier, A
not
tier.
bad. It's, but I think it doesn't deserve one of the top slots.
Okay. Now, I would agree with B tier, possibly A tier, but I want to hear your thoughts first. Weapons, the weapons that come from VOG.
The
Your
the
mic is
freaking
super quiet right now, by the way.
the what was the Fatebringer? That
Fatebringer.
was good,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And then the scout rifle was also kind of good. Well, all right.
Timepiece, right? Praetus timepiece, something like
I
that.
thought that was the Pulse. I
Oh, is
think it
that the
was Vision
pulse?
of Confluence was the scout
Oh,
rifle,
yeah. I think you're right. I think you're right.
and then or maybe Predator's timepiece was the, I don't remember. But anyway, like I thought, they were pretty solid weapons,
Mm-hmm.
but like the game evolved past them pretty quickly,
Oh yeah.
right?
Oh,
Because
100%
like
agree.
when it came to taking King, all those became kind of useless, right?
A lot of them just disappeared. You never saw them used.
Yeah, and I mean, it took until the end of D1 for them to be good again,
Mm-hmm.
and then they dropped D2.
I agree.
So
I agree.
I don't know if the weapons really have that much of a place in this ranking just because they weren't that viable for that long.
That's fair. Okay, and one other thing I wanna include, and this is tied to weapons, is some of these raids, most of these raids, have an exotic gun that comes with the raid. Right? It's specific. Whether maybe it's a quest, maybe it's just random completion drops, but a lot of them have it. What do you think, if any, does is there a change with the exotic for this raid? I can't think of the name right now. I see it in my head. Vex Mythoclast. There you have it. Do you think that exotic alone boosts it up a tier, or do you think it just kind of makes it stay right at that A B area?
The Vex Mythoclast has a complicated past, right?
Very, very
Because
complicated.
it
Rhyming.
used to like destroy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then after a little while, it just didn't. So like,
Yeah.
I, it was a very rare drop too. So like,
Yes. Very. One of the worst in the game.
I mean, I think it holds a status as a a legend, like not legendary weapon because it's like it's exotic, but like
Oh my gosh.
legendary as in like you know.
Mm-hmm. All right.
So I think it could probably go to A tier because of that.
You think it could get bumped to A tier? First rate Destiny history. Right out of the chute, some fantastic weapons, a fantastic exotic, some kind of uniqueness. I think they did a lot of things right. It wasn't super. It wasn't necessarily a super long raid. As far as teammates go with this raid, I think having good teammates was really not that necessary. As long as you had like two or three people that knew what they were doing, you could kind of get away with having like the other four or three absolutely clueless. So I'm fine with putting this one in A tier for now. I think we may have to bump it down to B tier later on, but I'm not sure yet. We'll cover that once we get there. All right, now for Vito's sake here, I think we need to turn around and I think we need to include a D2 raid here, and let's start with what D2 started with: good old fashioned Leviathan. What are your guys' thoughts?
Cool raid. Good lore. Didn't like the gauntlet. Other than that, I like the raid. Good loot.
Mm-hmm.
Everything about it was aesthetically pleasing. Always the scenery of it.
Very, yeah.
Minty.
I like the Leviathan because it's different from like every other raid in here in like the idea that it only has really one boss at the very end,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the rest are just like complicated activities that you do.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was a nice change of pace because it had seemed like in D1 they kind of got settled into a formula, and by Wrath of the Machine it was like, okay, here's a boss. What do we do to shoot him? Right? Whereas in like Leviathan, it wasn't always here's a boss, what do we do to shoot him? It's here's a bunch of dogs. How do we get the ASPCA to come after us?
Yeah.
Or
I
PETA.
mean, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah.
Or PETA.
Or both. I mean, honestly. No, I agree. I think Leviathan definitely just took a completely different approach, and a lot of people did not like the raid, and personally I don't know why. I think Leviathan, in my mind, is one of my favorite raids. Okay, not saying it's necessarily S tier, but I think it is a very very good raid. Here's the downside, in my opinion. I think that the rewards for it weren't necessarily mm, like over the top crazy, make me want to farm it over and over and over. And with a lot of them, obviously Sunset now, it makes it difficult to like sit back and think, okay, well, if they weren't Sunset, maybe this weapon would be used a lot more. Like, I mean, the hand cannon, what was it, Emperor's Q or something like that, Midnight
Midnight
Q.
Coup.
Yeah, that was a solid
I
hand
want
cannon.
that back. An inaugural address. That pulse rifle was amazing.
Yeah, same. Like, I mean, there were some solid weapons, but there were also a lot of weapons that just weren't really all that great. And I think that's why it kind of like for me, like I enjoyed that raid, and there's so many nights where like me and Vito are grinding, or maybe all three of us have been grinding. I go, you know what I want back right now, and I go, I want to run Leviathan. And I think it makes it is a good raid. I think it makes it in the top few, but I don't think it's as good as it possibly could have been. I like how it was refreshing from all the D1 raids. I agree 100% with you, Jazz. I think it was enough of a change to arc you taking the time to learn it very well and run through it several times. So I'm gonna put it in B tier for now, if that's fine with the both of you.
Yep. It'd be higher if we didn't have to punch Scions in Gauntlet, but that's
No,
just
Jazz, are you okay
I'll
with
always
putting it in
yeah.
B
B
tier?
tier is good. B
B
tier
tier
is
is good.
good.
Okay. The one thing I will say, and maybe this will shake it up a little bit. I think Leviathan is very similar to Vogue in one sense in terms of the exotic weapon. Legend of Acreus, you got from Leviathan, and in order to upgrade it, you actually had to do Prestige Leviathan. And this is something that um, I think was a little annoying for a lot of people because there was
I
plenty of
thought
LFG groups out there and friends that would not take you through a prestige version of something because it was more
that's
difficult and they didn't want to take the time to teach it. So I think this is definitely one where if you have good teammates or even just decent teammates, you can usually fly through it. You can do prestige, you could have got Legend of Acreus and its catalyst or whatever, but now if it were still around, I feel like if you have bad teammates, I mean, we've experienced this firsthand. You guys have told me a story of another experience that I was not a part of, but if you have bad teammates, I mean, this raid can truly suck.
yes.
All right.
I think
Well,
well earlier don't you isn't prestige mode only for the ornament?
oh, maybe it is. Yeah, just for the
Because I think
ornament.
you can upgrade it to like fill it out in regular Leviathan.
It might be. I honestly don't remember if the catalyst dropped from prestige or not.
I think the
Yeah, I
catalyst
think the
did drop from
catalyst was
prestige.
prestige.
You had to do it a select amount of times, though.
Oh, well, yeah. So it's still kind of the same thing. Like I don't want to go out of my way to upgrade an exotic or get an exotic in the first place by doing a harder difficulty of a raid when there's times where I can't find quality teammates to do it regularly. And I think that's why I would put it as B tier instead of an A tier, personally.
Yeah,
Um,
I honestly can respect that.
But
so
yeah,
let's work a little bit backwards here. The brand new, except not, I guess, super brand new anymore, Deepstone Crypt, D2 raid on Europa. What are your guys' thoughts? We'll start with you, Jazz.
you know, I like it. It's refreshing. It's interesting. It kind of subverts your expectations and it tells this story within the raid, which is not something that not a lot of the other raids did, right? Because I can go through Leviathan and Vogue and like King's Fall and all that stuff, and I can not know what's going on like lore wise until like the final boss,
Oh yeah,
right?
oh
Where
yeah.
it's like the Deepstone Crypt, it kind of was like, hey, we're gonna make this like narratively speaking, almost like a mission, but
Mm-hmm.
like it's gonna be a raid.
No, yeah, I agree. I think that's one thing. I mean, there's definitely some other raids I feel like kind of do that, but I would argue Deepstone does it the best by far.
I gotta agree with them. They did well on that
Mm-hmm.
raid. Plus, even Stone Lullaby.
Oh yeah, the music alone I feel like could make it S tier low
Yeah.
key.
In fact, let's just take let's add in just the whole Beyond Light campaign with Deepstone Crypt. All music for that was.
Mm-hmm. Very very solid.
If there's one time when the boys got emotional,
The first time you were in space. Yeah, no, I think I agree. I think Deepstone just overall very very solid raid.
yeah, even though
The
two
only
is
the
amazing.
only gripe I have
Mm-hmm.
is the freaking jumping puzzle has gravity in it, even though I'm on a space station.
Yes,
Yes.
Like what is that?
but you also notice how our gravity doesn't change on any of the planets, even though their gravitational forces will all be different.
Hey, look,
Okay,
we're talking about raids
Connor,
here, not physics.
you're you're thinking too deep into it.
Just
right?
contributing to your argument here, okay?
Okay, yeah, but you're contributing against it, so I don't like it, and that's why I'm gonna say
My
that you're
apologies.
thinking too deep. Yeah.
So, okay, and then obviously the loot in Deepstone, I think is by far some of the best loot we've ever had from any of the raids. There's a few that I would say compete with it. Um,
One
another
thing I
one
can
from D2 and one from D1. But I think the exotic from this was honestly quite a disappointment, personally. I mean,
one thing
oh, go ahead.
Maybe for
one
you,
thing I
because you
can add
have it.
on Cabre's point here, the loot, pretty good. Crypt.
Hmm.
The fact that people at Bungie said, "Hey, let's have these weapons have their own perks, like construction, recombination,
Yeah.
and another one that starts with R. I forget which one it is. Um, that makes it so much better than what
Hmm.
you would normally find in a raid.
Oh
I
yeah.
think.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it makes you want to do that raid specifically for those perks, maybe the weapons too, but getting those perks on the weapons because you can't get them anywhere else. Yeah.
Right. Redirection. That's what it is.
Ah, yeah. Jazz, you were started to say something about the rocket launcher, I believe.
Oh, I was just saying, you might be disappointed in it because you have it, was all.
Yes, and I think that's a fair point. There's still probably people out there that have done it like three on all three characters every week and have still yet to get it. Yeah,
Chibi Robo.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's totally my scenario. I totally
now you're like
do the raid
three
every
runs in
week.
or whatever. No, I think overall, if you look at everything Deepstone has done, I think it's not quite S tier. And here's why. Hear me out. I think it's not quite S tier for a couple of reasons. I think A, in terms of like day one raid race, a bunch of people complained about it being too easy. I had myself, Vito, and Jazz all had rather a rather horrible experience with day one
Well,
raid.
well,
Or wait,
Pi was
Jazz, you
there
weren't even
too.
there, were you?
It
Oh
was Pi.
yeah, dude. I was watching you guys try to do it
That's
and
right.
giving you what the Twitch streamers are doing, and I was still having trouble.
Yeah, and I think our yeah our teammates were a little difficult to work with at times, and I think that's why I kind of hold this like it could be a better raid, but it was not great. Like if we had a good group of guys together, like I'm hoping to have with Vog here, like we would have easily completed Deepstone Crypt day one, or at the very least we would have gotten to final boss day one, and
Yep.
past that, I mean, every other run I've done with Deepstone has been super super easy, super laid back. Nobody ever complains. Everyone kind of knows what they're doing, and even if they don't, it's not like it's difficult to learn. So I think for that reason, I mean, like day one, we figured out what to do in the encounter. We just couldn't successfully complete it because one person would screw up and then leave or start screaming at each other, whatever the case may be. And I think that's why we weren't able to move past stuff. But we figured out all of the encounters pretty quick. And I think that's why I would put it as an A tier, because I don't think the encounters are all that difficult themselves.
What Mekabre said. I gotta agree with them. If our teammates on day one had some sense to just take a breath every once in a while, we could have gotten somewhere.
I agree.
And it's not only that too, just Tanix being there kind of makes it a little more too.
Yeah, that's another thing.
Agreed.
Reused content. Do we really need it? Do we really want it? All right. Now, we're going to step back into D1 times here, working backwards again, right? The most recent D1 raid being Wrath of the Machine. I know Jazz knows undisputably by like a majority of people that have played both D1 and D2 the best raid to have ever occurred, right?
I mean, I don't think a lot of people share that same opinion, but that's my opinion.
So the only thing I think can compete with it in D1 is King's Fall personally, and I know a lot of people disagree with me on that. But I am willing to put Wrath of the Machine pretty much without reason, without rhyme, in S tier because it is a solid raid.
So good.
The
It was
loot
so
from it
much
was
fun.
amazing. One of the best exotic weapon quests, being Outbreak Prime, comes from that raid partially. Just
Which I
overall, a
totally
solid.
have completed. Don't worry.
No, but I agree with you. I think this is one of the best raids. I think it does a lot of things right. It's not too difficult that it turns everyone away. It's not too easy that it allows everyone to get every god roll they ever wanted. It's got good loot. It doesn't necessarily take too long, and each time you play it, I feel like depending on the group you play with, it's always a blast. Jazz, did you have anything you would like to say specifically on Wrath?
Um, no, I pretty much agree with everything you've said. But I
Okay.
mean, I think this was where they tried to start breaking away a little bit from the formula, but at the same time, they kept to it, right? Because you have two bosses. You have Vosik and you have Axis, or that's his name, right?
Something like that. I can't remember exactly if I'm being honest.
You have two-legged man and four-legged man as the bosses, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, but the part that really sold it for me was the siege engine encounter,
Oh yeah,
because
as as it
that
does
was
for most
unique,
people. Oh yeah.
and it there was the perfect sense of urgency, but at the same time, like you you had to have everything going together, and it was nice to have all come together in the end. Granted, it sucked a ton. Those like spider mines or whatever, when you're trying to carry the
Mm-hmm.
pieces across, literally made me want to tear my controller apart sometimes, but that
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
No, I agree. I agree. All right, now we're gonna just take one step back, go straight to King's Fall here. In my opinion, one of the better raids done. I know a lot of people disagree with me, and here's the
What
reason
do
why I
you
say
mean?
it's. Well,
Everyone agrees with you.
I don't know on that. I've heard as of late is there's not a lot of great things about King's Fall. There's just I think some of the best weapons to this day, besides Deepstone maybe, have come from King's Fall. I mean, both in terms of PvP and PvE use, and maybe both by the same weapon. Just solid choices all around. And it's not like you were ever mad. And then additionally, I think for me, a lot of nostalgia for this raid's because of the group I used to play it with. I think there was a couple guys that I did pretty consistently with them, did it with them, and I mean, it was just always a blast because they were always cracking jokes, or each encounter was some new game inside of the encounter. So overall, I would have to say this is probably one of the better raids. I don't think it makes S tier status.
And it had the only boss that you could damage like all the time, didn't it? Like Golgoroth.
Yeah, I mean, there was obviously it wasn't worthwhile all the time, but
But it made me feel good that I could shoot him when I wanted.
yeah, you got to put damage numbers up, even though even though they weren't great. You got to put
We're
damage
gonna run
numbers
out
up.
of heavy ammo by the time we DPS.
Yeah, exactly. But that's okay.
But but I will have at least two damage.
Do you think this is worth putting into A, or do you think it drops down to B tier? I think A personally. I think it's on par with Deepstone, if not a little bit better.
That's just a lot of A tiers, is all.
Well, don't worry, we've saved some raids for later on.
Okay, I guess A tier is fine.
A tier, or well, okay, if you would put it B tier, you're saying
A tier is fine.
A tier's fine. Okay. Now we'll move to another D2 raid here. Let's start with Last Wish. Now, here's my reasoning, and I think you guys are both going to agree with me here. The raid mechanics can be a little complex for a LFG group. But the loot is worthwhile. I think almost all the weapons from Last Wish are pretty solid weapons, and honestly, I would say that alone gives it a boost. I don't think it's quite D tier because it's not that bad, but I think I would argue putting it in C tier. The only reason I would bump it up to B tier is this is one of two raids as far as I know. Well, technically three with the addition of Deepstone, that you can actually get loot without really doing the raid. You can log in solo, and whether it's a code on the wish wall with Last Wish or just driving your Sparrow or using some glitch spots in Garden, you can get free loot. And I think that would be the only reason I'd put it in B tier. Otherwise, I think it deserves C tier. So I'm just curious what your guys' opinions are.
C tier is a little too harsh, right? Like, it's a
Jazz, no
Well,
one can hear you.
I haven't done it really, so I can't say much.
Okay.
I think
Um,
C.
I mean,
Sorry, Evan.
the only reason that I would do it is to try to get 1,000 voices, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And other than that, I really don't have a rhyme or reason to do it,
That's fair.
since it just comes off as kind of a vigorous raid.
Mm-hmm.
Because Taken suck.
Oh yeah.
I think C tier is a little too harsh. I don't think it deserves that
Okay.
justice for my boy. Um, but it's definitely long, which is not necessarily a bad thing, except for most like LFG groups and stuff, it is a long raid,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, but I think B tier is good because everything in it is mechanically sound and
Oh yeah.
it's fun. But like, and I definitely would not put it on the same level as like a Crown of Sorrow, which we're coming up on. So so I
Okay.
think B tier is
B,
probably where it
B
sits,
tier is more fitting.
at least in my opinion.
Okay. I'm honestly fine with that. I think the loot and being able to get free chests, it sways me enough to put it in B tier. I agree with that.
Yes. Yes.
All right, now we're gonna go to another D2 raid here, a kind of newer one, no longer in the game, but I think we all have very fond memories of it. It's one that we all, I would argue, probably enjoy quite thoroughly. And in my opinion, probably the S tier raid of D2, if you will. And that is Scourge of the Past.
Crota's End. Oh,
Hmm?
I said Crota's End.
Wait, D2?
Don't worry about it.
So here's why I'm gonna put it in S tier to start with. I'm gonna put it in S tier because A, we got Anarchy from the raid.
Well, Jazz didn't.
I thought he did. Wait, did you really not get it?
I don't think he did.
I'll see you guys later. It's a sore spot for me
Oh,
that I still don't have Anarchy.
okay. Two of the three of us have Anarchy, right? On top of that, the other
I did
weapons
it
that
so
came from
many
it
times.
were rather good weapons. And then I think, additionally, in season 11, you could run the final boss over and over and over and over, and you would get loot each time. Unless you're Jazz Keyfall. Everyone go in the comment section down below right now and just put an F in the chat for Jazz Keyfall. now that I'm thinking about this, yeah, I'm pretty sure we did close to like 20 runs or something, and he still didn't walk out of there with Anarchy.
Yeah. But then again, none of us walked out of there with always on time either.
That is true.
That overhyped Sparrow that's really good, which is overhyped for a reason.
We
Okay,
didn't do that part for a lot of the runs.
so do you guys have any arguments as to why this shouldn't be an S tier raid?
I never did the full thing,
Okay,
so I think it should be A tier.
A tier.
I don't know. I mean, it was cool. I don't know. And the boss was really unique. The armor set and weapon sets were all good.
Hmm.
Um, it brought anarchy, which was powerful. You know, I wasn't gonna say S tier, but like, I mean, it. I guess it kind of deserves it.
I feel like it does. I mean, Anarchy alone, I feel like automatically bumps it to A tier. But then I think the mechanics, each encounter kind of being unique and kind of being fun, and then also just it was so much different than any of the other raids at that time that it is. I just thought overall, I would put it as an S tier personally.
It's an underdog.
Drive a tank,
S tier.
so
Yeah, you get a dude. You get to use a tank.
Oh, that's true.
I
It's
think
an underdog. S
it
tier.
is most definitely an underdog. I feel like a lot of people wouldn't put it this high. I think we have to. I don't think we have a choice here. I know Vito, you said put it A tier, but I don't know. I feel like it belongs in S tier. Let's move. We can come back if we need, but let's move to
If we could put it halfway, then I would tell it halfway.
yeah, like
between
halfway
the
in
two.
between. Yeah.
he's actually holding us at gunpoint right now. See, neither of us agree with him,
It's
but
S
like,
tier. Nod your heads and say yes.
speak this pre-recorded message.
Let's
See, you
move.
can't see it right now, but I'm actually blinking in Morse code for help.
Let's move. And this is one that I don't think really needs a whole lot of discussion. Spire of Stars. It's going D tier.
Never done it.
For
Heard
you
the
audio listeners, he put it in D tier without any hesitation.
They can see this. This is recorded. Don't worry.
Yeah, but like, are you gonna put this one up on Spotify too?
Oh, that's true. Yeah, Spotify
Yeah.
listeners, if you want to see my movement of the mouse, we do have an actual tier list up over on my YouTube. It's in the description down below. Check it out.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. Spire Stars. Yeah, D tier, I guess. I don't know.
It
It
just
used the
doesn't have
ball
enough.
mechanic too much.
It doesn't have enough going for it. Some mechanics
Yeah.
that really require good teamwork. So if the group you're with isn't like actually talking and actively trying to get better at what you're doing, it's very
It's
difficult.
like the Cabal version of Last Wish.
Oh, but
Yeah.
get this. Get this. You can get a sidearm from it.
What was it? What were the rewards that you could get it from besides the sidearm?
A
Sidearm,
sidearm?
Telesto Catalyst.
The luxurious toast emote.
Yep, an emote.
Fusion rifle, I think.
Yeah, I think that was it. A fusion rifle, sidearm, and
Uh,
that. I mean,
Was
obviously,
was
if
the
your
grenade
armor's set.
launcher Spire Stars?
No, that was regular Leviathan.
That was regular Leviathan?
Yes, sir.
No.
I am alive.
What?
Yeah, that or
I
it
thought
was
I had
Eater.
everything from regular Leviathan.
Then maybe it was Eater. It
I
might have
think
been Eater.
so.
It was
That
not
was like I
Spire. I
think
know it was
Zenith
not
of
Spire.
your kind and the grenade launcher. I'm pretty sure were the weapons in Eater.
Yeah. Okay. I don't. There was another. There's got to be another weapon. I just can't remember what it is.
For which one?
The SMG, wasn't it?
No, that was regular Leviathan.
Oh, I can't think of what the third weapon is. But the loot wasn't there. Okay. On top
Yeah.
of that, the mechanics. I mean, like I said, if you just didn't have good teammates, it was such a struggle. And on top of that, I mean, it wasn't necessarily like fun either. Like a lot of these mechanics, like make you actually sit down and work on, good teamwork or just have a good time in general, and it allows you to do both.
Same
Spire was
mechanics as
neither of
Seraph
those.
Towers.
Dude, Seraph Towers equivalent Spire of Stars.
Bring a Seraph Towers image up here, Connor. I'm trying to put it on the tier list right above Spire Star.
Just added a little box in it, the Seraph Tower.
Yeah, maybe put it in your thumbnail.
Seraph Towers better than Spire of Stars? Question mark? Exclamation mark? Question mark?
Because if I wanted to watch balls get thrown around all day,
Be a sports.
I'm not going to say that actually.
Too late. You already did.
I'd go to my local basketball gym.
Yeah. There
That's
you go.
totally what I was gonna say.
And you know what? Speaking of that, if we just want to throw balls around all day, inspire stars, we could probably do we could do Seraph Towers, like Jaren said. If we wanted to throw around moats all day, we would just do Gambit and not Garden of Salvation. Let's move into Garden.
Let's do it. Let's move into Garden here. Okay, so Garden, both myself and Vito have had some rough memories from Garden. Okay, but besides those rough memories, I think it instantly becomes B tier at lowest. I think B tier is as low as we can go with this raid.
Yeah.
And here's
Is-
why. I think there's
They-
definitely room for A tier and there's possible room for S tier. But the reason it's B tier is because if you do not have a group that can just bare bones communicate, this raid is impossible.
Mhm.
Additionally, there are so
I
many
agree.
things revolving around the timing of things in this raid, whereas a lot of the other raids, sure, there's like a general countdown timer maybe, but like this raid, it's like, oh, if you don't do this at this time, then we're all gonna wipe. If you don't
When
call
Mekabre,
out at 10 seconds, then I'm not gonna have enough time to get to you, and then so on and so forth. You know, there's just so many small details that you have to really, really pay attention to.
right, and the puzzles too. They're harder than
Yeah,
they're as hard as ever.
I
Especially
think
the
that's
last one.
I think that's a quality point. I mean, we get one
Or
of the best
puzzles
exotic
for
weapons.
Divinity.
Yeah, you get one of the best exotic weapons in the game, Div, right now, right? It is so useful. But to do that, you have to have a team that knows what they're doing, and you have to actually succeed. And it's one run through it. It's not like you can do portions of it at a time, and that gets annoying. I mean, when you're
Yeah,
all
not only do they have to know what they're doing, they also have to have. They and you also have to have patience.
patience and time, plenty of both.
That was a good exotic.
I
I'm
figured you were
kidding.
gonna
It
bring that
sucked.
up, but yeah, yeah.
Dude,
D1
that's the
sucked.
one they need to bring back.
I don't know about that.
The camping sniper.
Pretty much.
Give it third eye, it'd be fun. Or did it have third eye? I think it might have.
I think it did. I don't remember. I never used it.
I'm just gonna go sit in the back of the Crucible map invisible and snipe people. Never have to leave.
Yeah.
I'm gonna set up a whole tent and everything.
So, are you guys fine with leaving this as B tier? Because I
Oh,
am,
yeah.
Yes.
and I don't think
Yes.
it belongs. I think it could go A tier, but it depends on like the group that you run it with, and I think that teammates is so dependent on this one. So I think it belongs B tier.
I think
According to
B-tier is
all
fine.
known laws of aviation, there's no way that a bee should be able to fly. I think I screwed that up. But B tier.
Yeah. Okay.
B. That's what I was going for.
Let's go into probably for us one of our favorites, at least one of my favorites, Eater of Worlds here. But I'm going to drop it in C tier for now, and here's why. Hear me out. A, it's a raid lair, just like Spire of Stars. B, the loot that you could get from it was just okay again.
Mediocre.
Yeah, it was just mediocre. And then on top of that, it really didn't feel like a raid. It just felt like a 6-man strike.
I can agree with that. The one thing I liked
Depends.
about it though, SNS, short and sweet.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Didn't drag on.
I get where you're coming from, Connor, when you say 6-man strike. However,
We have another one of those. Yes, I know.
when you do it with a bad team,
Oh yeah.
you definitely feel the raid
Uh-huh.
part of it.
Yeah.
So do you think it deserves a B tier slot?
No, I think C tier is
No.
good,
Yes.
but I don't think it should be C tier because of the fact that it feels like a strike. When there are plenty of people that can make it feel like it is the hardest raid in existence. It can feel
Yes.
like Last Wish.
Oh, well, I mean, if that's the case,
No.
I feel bad for you.
Okay. Well, I use hyperbole a lot. It's all good.
Yeah, same.
All right, now let's go back to D1 here. We'll go to the last D1 raid we're gonna discuss. Crota's End.
D tier, D tier, D tier, D tier. Don't
I
D tier.
think it could go
Connor?
C tier. No?
Drop it. Drop it down to D tier.
C for
Drop it.
Crota.
Okay.
Drop it.
Okay.
If you can solo it, it does not deserve the title of raid.
That is fair. That is 100% fair. This is that strike that I was talking about. I agree. The weapons from it were kind of cool. They're kind of unique. The mechanics at times were cool-ish. Yeah. I past that, I mean I agree. I think it's a C or a D tier pretty easily. Some D tier, I guess. Yeah. All right, that leaves Crown of Sorrow.
Gotta make our tier list look nice, so I'm thinking C tier.
Okay. Vito, what are your thoughts?
What'd he say?
C tier.
Yeah, C for Crown.
I
I
mean,
wanted to do it, never went to it. I did get
aside
terrible
from
at
that
the
first
kiosk though.
encounter, pretty solid.
I think okay. Maybe I'm crazy for saying this. I think it belongs B tier.
The lore behind
Really?
it, the lore, the lore for Crown is B tier. The raid, I think, is C tier.
But some of the
Weapons,
loot you could get from it was actually pretty solid. And on top of that, I know Turbo's not like amazing, but it's a
Well, I
fun
mean,
gun
it
to
lives
use.
up to its name. It's pretty terrible.
yeah.
True, true. I personally would put it B tier. I think it's not all that unique. It's the same as a bunch of other raids. And inside of the raid, like you were saying, Jazz, I mean, there's just the first encounter is a joke, honestly, and then the last two are the exact same. So,
You'd put Cronosaur on the same tier as Leviathan?
no, and that yeah, no, that's a good point. I think there's only one appropriate place to put it, and I agree. I guess I'll have to go C tier with you guys on this one.
See, now I'm holding Connor at gunpoint. He's the one blinking for help in Morse code.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. So, last minute changes. Is there anything that you agree or disagree with on this list? Vito, we'll start with you.
Tanix has no house. He's leader of no Kel.
Okay. I got
Deep
nothing
Stone,
about the
Deep Stone Crypt belongs where it is.
Okay. All right. That's fair.
tier list except the outline of it. If you squint very hard, looks like an Among Us character.
Oh my gosh, it does. No. Oh no.
I'm not wrong.
You're not. That's what makes it worse. Uh, uh, personally, I think everything's fine. The only thing that I may would would change possibly would be moving Kingsfall up one and moving Garden up one. But I
I don't think
like
so.
I like how we have it now. I think everything's pretty fitting. There's a few that I think could switch, like I was saying, or could go one way or the other.
You know what? Can I add one more thing?
Go for it.
I'm just gonna roll with Jaren here. Crota didn't start with C. I would say put Crota's End at D tier, though I never played it or never had experience with it. From what I hear, it sounds pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
One man. So maybe switch it to D tier. But I think it could be
Crota's
C
End
tier.
was the original dungeon, I'm convinced.
Honestly, it felt like that. Yes.
It could have been a dungeon and worked perfectly fine.
Probably
And
should
obviously
have
they
been
didn't
done.
they didn't have those at that time, so that's why it wasn't. But like
Yeah,
I think if they were to reprise it, it should be a dungeon.
that's fair. That's fair. All right. Well, there you have it, everyone. That's our tier list. I want to thank both of you for helping me put this together. Um, hopefully, you guys had a little bit of fun here. I know I did.
Yes.
Well, you know.
Don't worry,
Once
you
I
will.
actually got into the Discord, I did.
You will be here in future podcasts. Do not worry about that. With that, thank you everyone for listening. Whether you're over on Spotify, wherever else you listen to podcasts, I don't know where you listen to podcasts at, because I don't listen to them myself. Or if you're here on YouTube watching this, seeing our tier list, I hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a like wherever you're at, comment wherever you're at, and with that, get back to grinding, your crazy guardians.